But above all things, I wish you love. I hit it! I hit it! Hi, welcome back. So in this build walkthrough for the Whitney Houston Drum Challenge, I will walk you through how we can put together all the hardware, wire up some input buttons, but most importantly, program all the logic and the behavior to make the challenge actually work. Now, as always, you can download all the project files so that you can follow along and build along with me. Now, here's what we'll need for this build. We'll need an RJ45 breakout cable, of course an Ethernet cable to connect the RJ45 breakout cable. We'll need a 2-core wire and a button which will act as a buzzer or the drum beat. For this project, I decided to go with this arcade style buzzer. And of course, you will need the COGS digital master. Now, don't worry if you don't have the physical digital master or a physical button, you can still follow along just fine because most of the important parts of this build, the logic, the behavior, all of it can be done entirely within the COGS software. So without further ado, let's get this party on the road, shall we? Now, the first thing we need to do before we do anything else is to import all our media files. So we can jump straight into the build module, and there we can find this media section here. We can click and drag our media files into this window, or we can just click import. And in this case, I'm going to import all my media files. Now, before we get into any behaviors, let's make sure we've set up our digital master and our media master properly. Now, if you're not quite sure how to do this, you might want to revisit our units on setting up the digital master and the media master. So to do that, we will go into the Connect tab. If you've set everything up correctly, you should see this green light here for the digital master and the media master. Now let's go ahead and set up our media master. Now if you go into the screen tab for our media master, we can see our background color is this purple color. But we want to set it up to be our wallpaper so that when the user or the player walks up to the game, they see this nice Whitney Houston Challenge wallpaper, and then they can start the game. So we can do that by selecting the wallpaper here and making sure we choose cover screen so that we don't have a bar at the top or at the bottom. So now that we've set up the digital master and the media master, let's get into our input channels. So let's start with what we definitely know that we need. We know we need a way to start the game. We also know that we need to register a drum hit through our button. So let's work on those two input channels to start with. So we head into our build module where we can find channels right there. So if it's all collapsed, you have to click this little arrow here to pop it all out. And let's add we have our second channel. Perfect. So let's patch our drum hit to the very first port of the digital master. Now I've already wired up this button onto this box, and I have an RJ45 breakout cable wired to this button. So I've already set this up. So when I hit this button, I should see a light come out here. So that means it's working just fine. Now here's a quick note on naming. It's generally good practice in coding and software building to give some meaningful names to all your channels, variables, behaviors, and so on. Name them something that actually makes sense, not just button 1 or channel A or variable B. This will make your build much easier to read and follow. And most importantly, it will make it easier to troubleshoot. As you continue to work in COGS, you will very quickly realize that problems might arise. Some things might not work the way they should or the way you think they should. So it's important to name your variables and your channels and your behaviors meaningfully so that you can easily troubleshoot. All right, now here comes the fun part. Let's get into the build module and actually start building our behaviors. Now, this is where we define how the game or the challenge will actually work. Now, before we start clicking away, let's try to think through the logic of this challenge at a very high level. Now, this challenge is essentially a timeline. We have a song that plays, and at precisely 19 seconds, the drum beat occurs. Now, we know this from the project brief. Now, a player needs to press the button, which is the drum, within this short golden window. If they press it outside of this window, either too early or too late, we need to trigger the lose behavior. If they hit the buzzer at the right time, we need to trigger the win behavior. Now let's figure out how we can set all this up in COGS. So we can go into the build module and then go right ahead and choose our behaviors tab right here. Now, let's start with our first behavior, which is to start the game. We want to match the states because we want to match a digital button press to start the game. And we want to set our condition to when the start game button is pressed. Go right ahead and play the song. You can of course adjust the volume with this slider right here. We'll leave it at 100 for now. Our next behavior is the drum hit. So we want to match the button press with a drum hit sound. So we also want a states match. And we want to set our condition to when the button is pressed. Go right ahead and play our drum hit audio track. You can click this test actions to hear the sound. So we have this thud drum beat. Perfect. Now, let's get into the golden window behavior. Now, this behavior is quite literally at the heart of our entire build. Now, here's what we're trying to achieve. We need a very brief moment in time within the song during which pressing the button counts as a win. Outside of this moment, pressing the button should actually count as a loss. Now, from the project brief, we know that this drum hit comes at exactly 19 seconds into the song. So what we might want to do is set up a delay until this 19-second mark, after which we want to open this elusive golden window. And to do this, we might want to rely on an LED output channel. Now, we set up an LED as a marker of some sort on which we can model the win or the lose behavior. So essentially, it would look like this. When the LED is on, the window is open. When the LED turns off, it means the window is closed. Now, this should do the job just fine, but as you will realize, as you will see in the next unit, variables are a much handier tool to use for exactly this. But since we haven't covered those yet, let's rely on LEDs. They should work just fine. So first, let's set up our output channel, which is an LED. So we want to go into the build module. There we go. Let's go and name it. We don't actually have to patch it, pardon me, to our digital master because we actually don't need an actual LED. This is more of a marker that we can use on which we can model other behavior. Now let's set up our window open golden window behavior. So we could also set it up with a states match, but we might want to choose when audio is playing. This is because this is exactly what we want. We want this behavior to be triggered when the audio is playing, and we wait 19 seconds, and then we trigger this LED. So when audio is playing, when this audio is playing, go ahead and set a delay of 19 seconds, after which you should update values. So we want to update our output channel, which is our LED. we want to update our LED to on. Then we want to wait for a brief period of time and then close the window. From our project brief, we know that a relatively easy challenge would be 0.5 seconds as a window. So if it's a little bit too easy, you might want to bring it down to 0.3, but I wouldn't recommend going over 0.5. It becomes a little bit too easy. So you can play around and see what works for you. So I will go ahead and set a delay of 0.5 seconds. 0.5 seconds, and go ahead and update the values to off. Great. So now we have this window open behavior. We can test it out by going into the run module and going into the overrides, where we can actually click on start game. So I'm gonna click start game and the song should start playing, and at around 19 seconds you should see this switch go on quite briefly and then right back off again. So here we go. Oops, something is wrong. Not sure what's happening. Oh, I should click start. So let's perfect. So looks like so far so good. I'm actually quite excited. So great. So now it's time to set up our winner behavior. Remember, when the player hits the buzzer during this golden window, we want to trigger the win behavior. And this is essentially a GIF of Whitney dancing on our Media Master. Let's see how we can set that up. So we add a new behavior and we want to choose when states match. This is because we want to match the drum hit to the on LED, which signifies the open window. So let's go right ahead and say that when the drum hit is on, when the button is pressed, we want to also match that to a condition when the LED is on. And remember to select all. All is selected by default, but if you set any, then any one of these conditions can trigger the win behavior, which is not what we want. So when these two conditions are met, or when these two states are matched, we want to go right ahead and display the winning GIF of Whitney dancing. Now on the flip side, we want to set up the loser behavior. This is exactly the opposite to the winner behavior. When the user hits the buzzer outside of the golden window, we want to go ahead and trigger the loser behavior. So once again, we set up this states match. We call it loser. Now this time, when the button is hit, but the LED is off, we want to go right ahead and display the loser GIF. Perfect. So now we've set up a way to start the game. We've configured our drum hit, which is the button, and we've set up this golden window and winner and loser behaviors. Let's try it out. Let's see how it's going to work. Here we go. Okay, so I lost on purpose, just to show you the loser behavior. But what we can see here is things are going quite all right. We were able to press the buzzer, it registered, I did lose the game, and we do have the loser behavior on the digital master, which is all we want. But you might notice that we still have the loser GIF rolling on and on. And even if I had won, we would still have the GIF of Whitney dancing going on and on. This is because COGS does exactly what we tell it. We told it to put up the GIF, but we didn't tell it to take it down. So we might want to rely on some kind of delay to take down these GIFs. And also, let's say I actually lose the game pretty early. I might need a way to end and reset all behaviors so that I don't have to listen to the entire audio clip even though I have actually lost the game. So let's see how we can program that all in COGS. So let's go ahead and set the reset game behavior. Now, for the reset game behavior, we need a button that we can press to reset everything and prepare for the next player or the next round. To do this, we need a digital button. So like we did before, we go into our build module and our channels and set up a new channel, which is a digital input. Now let's jump right back into our behaviors. So still in the build module, we can collapse this to create a little bit more room for us to work. States match and then reset. Reset game behavior. We want to set when button 3 reset is on. We want to go right ahead and hide all images, stop all audio, hide all images. And we want to do one more thing, and this is called a stop behavior. I'll talk about why we're doing this in a moment. So we want to actually stop the window open behavior. So we can set that to window open. Now you might recall that the window open behavior has a 19-second delay built into it. If the player or game master presses the reset game button, the window behavior might still continue to run in the background, continuing the countdown, and after 19 seconds, even if the audio has completely stopped, still go on to trigger the golden window, causing unexpected behavior in the next round. So by explicitly telling COGS to end this behavior, we can avoid this. So now we are in the final stretch of our build, and let's try to spruce things up a little bit. So when my winner behavior is triggered, we remember from our last demo that the GIF keeps rolling on and on. I don't want to have to rely on pressing the reset game button all the time in order to reset everything. So I can actually just set a delay in here of, let's say, 10 seconds should be enough time to give me 10 seconds should be enough to give me time to celebrate. So let's set 10 seconds. And we want to actually hide all images. And let's do the same for the loser behavior. If somebody does lose, let's go ahead and set maybe a 5-second delay, and then go right ahead and hide all images. Perfect. So another thing we can do is to stop the opposite behavior. Let's say somebody loses, we want to make it impossible for them to press the button again and actually win the game. Or the other way around, if somebody wins and then accidentally presses the button again, we want to make sure it's impossible for them to then lose the game. So click on loser and let's add a new stop behavior. Let's stop the winner behavior and let's go into the winner module, winner channel, winner behavior, pardon me, and actually choose stop behavior and actually stop the loser behavior. Perfect. Hey, we've made it to the end. So now let's recap everything we did in this build. We kicked things off by setting up some input and output channels where we set up a physical button as well as some digital input and output channels. We went on to set up the start game and the end game or the reset game behaviors. These allow the player a way to start and end the game when they want to. We went on to set up the drum hit behavior, which gives the player audio feedback each time they press the drum or they hit the drum. Now, the heart of our build was the golden window, which was essentially a marker that we set up to subsequently match our winner and loser behaviors. Finally, we set up some safeguards to prevent unwanted system behavior and player behavior. Now, I look forward to seeing what you came up with. If you're feeling extra confident, see if you can separate the losing behavior or the loser behaviors into either too early or too late. My name is Joel, and thanks for joining me today, and I'll catch you in the next build. Until next time, build on.